Good evening. Hello once again. Welcome to my channel. 40 centuries, Egypt gave us the scriptures. We have followed the scriptures in our biblical teachings, and these biblical teachings were brought to us in our communities and in our countries, our nations, and so forth. Starting with European arrival. According to the scriptures, there was two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed, according to the Bible, by God. Because of their wickedness and their wicked ways, and just when destruction happened, those two cities were wiped out. And so when we talk about the word sodomize and sodomy today, that's where the word comes from. Is from the two cities that were destroyed, Sodom and Gomorrah. And how those teachings affected us, all those biblical teachings affected us today in our cultures, began there with the scriptures telling of the stories of that happened in the land of Egypt and Bethlehem with the birth of Jesus, and according to scriptures, Jerusalem in Egypt. Jesus walked here, and Muhammad, and so did David. And we also have the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is off the coast of Egypt. And word has it that a bird cannot fly across the Dead Sea without dying. And the temperatures are sometimes exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet the Bible says that Sodom and Gomorrah once existed in the area of the Dead Sea and Egypt. The two cities that were destroyed were to be destroyed because of their sin, which they had practiced. And the sin was that what they had practiced was oral sodomy, homosexuality. They began to. This is where a lot of the hatred had come from. Homophobic hatred would begin here with with the stories of Sodom and Gomorrah and the sodomy and what that represented. And according to the biblical teachings, God had told the nephew of Abraham, Lot, what he had done was he'd sent two angels to tell Lot that the two cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, where they had resided, where the wicked people had inhabited, would be destroyed by fire and brimstone, and that they had to leave. The angels came to find Lot and to tell him that the cities would be destroyed because of the sin and the wickedness and the unruly ways that they practiced. Sodom and Gomorrah were the evil of evil. And abnormal sexuality ran amok. And Somewhere in the depths or in the area of the Dead Sea, as the Bible has said, as the Bible teachings has uh, tell us that this is where Sodom and Gomorrah existed. Yet not a single piece of evidence has been uncovered. Not a single shard of clay or pottery has ever been uncovered to give us proper evidence that Sodom and Gomorrah ever existed. So, with the teachings of the Bible and how that affects us today, we have created our own hell. We have created our own destinies. We have created our own Sodom and Gomorrah. When the angels found Lot, they warned him of what would happen, and they also told Lot that not to look back as the city was being destroyed, because they would turn into a pillar of salt. And so when the cities were about to be destroyed, the Sodomites, the residents of the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, the inhabitants, the civilizations, had rejected the angels, the visitors from heaven, and wanted them out of Sodom and Gomorrah. And so with that, Lot left with his, as he was warned by the angels, with his wife and 2 daughters, and they fled the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And as they were leaving, as they left, shortly thereafter, the destruction began. And Lot's wife, against the will of God and the angels and the warnings of the angels, turned around and looked back at the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and turned into a pillar of salt, which is what we would find today along the coast of the Dead Sea, where the pillars of salt in areas of Jerusalem and Egypt. Sodom and Gomorrah today is our destiny. If we were to look at the teachings of the Bible, they brought this these teachings here, including the teachings of homosexuality, hating homosexuality, any kind of sodomization, oral sodomization, abnormal sexuality, any kind of sexuality between maybe relatives, sexuality between children and adults, that sort of thing. This was all this was all manifested to us through the teachings and through colonization. And so in our wickedness and in our evil ways throughout the world, we will bring our own destiny. We will bring our own our own punishment for the wickedness. And this is in everyone's teachings. You'll find it in Hopi teachings, where they talk about the blue kachina, that sort of thing. If you're familiar with the blue kachina and the Hopi teachings, there's different ceremonial teachings that talk about how the white man had arrived into our countries, Turtle Island and Mexico, and what was once known as it's North America, but what we call Turtle Island. many of us began to accept colonization. Wherever wherever Europeans chose to, wherever Europeans were sent to colonize and to bring the teachings of the Bibles, the teachings of Jesus, the teachings of David and Abraham, and um, what the scriptures were to mean for mankind, for our destinies, through the books of Revelations and many of the other teachings that were brought here and that are still brought here through our churches. The churches brought those teachings here when they began to colonize. Everywhere throughout the world was everyone. There were First Nation people everywhere. These First Nation peoples along throughout the coasts, throughout the countries, throughout the continents, throughout the entire Mother Earth, throughout the entire world, began to dwindle and become few because European culture began to push the scriptures and the Bible and the teachings of the church and do away with, wipe away with all the ceremony, wipe all the ceremonies with the languages away into eternity, and instead they would fill the world with the teachings of God and the teachings of Jesus and the Bible. And King James had altered the Bible to support the needs of the European and the British monarchy. So the teachings were basically forced. Many of the nations, many of the tribes, many of the people of the earth were pure and followed their own ways, followed their own teachings, followed their own livelihoods. They followed their own livelihoods. But when they began to accept these European cultures onto their ceremonial grounds and into their lands, they began to accept the destruction. They began to become overcome. Well, they became overcome with the people who brought the Bible and the people who brought the scriptures, and what the Bible actually brought was evil and destruction for all those First Nation people in all the different continents, because the British monarchy, King James, the Bible, God, Jesus as a jealous God, they needed to wipe away and do away with all these other religions, all these cultures of the earth, and make it one with God, with Jesus, superior, with one race, one nation of people, so that they may exhume all the riches that are buried in all throughout the parts of the world and the seas. Through all of these teachings arise the teachings of Sodom and Gomorrah. The residential schools practice the evil ways of the Bible. The Bible is the private hell that they talk about. The Bible is the destruction of mankind that they talk about. Jesus and the scriptures are the destruction of all the different races, of all the children, so that everyone else can conform. to satisfy the needs of one nation, one group of people, and one religion, which is the Bible and Jesus, and which has happened. With the world population, our communities will get populated. Our countries get populated. We need room. We need room to eat. We need room to move. We need room to live. So we begin seeking out other nations, everything gets chaotic. Man has begun to drill holes in the earth and create abnormal breathing spaces by destroying the Earth's ozone layer and allowing our weather patterns to go abnormal and amok. These are all tied to man-made destruction, man-made all the man-made destruction and annihilation. And when this doesn't correct itself, we begin to create our own destiny, which will probably, many of us may not see it, but there will probably be a time when the earth may cleanse itself and do away with all the wicked. Either if it's with destruction, fire and brimstone, which is another word for brimstone, which is another word for sulfur. And so we could be part of the Hopi teachings, which is a blue star coming back to the earth. There is other teachings that talk about stars falling from the sky, that sort of thing. So all these could be interpreted otherwise. But where this is going is that we have population increase, so we need to do something with that population, and so that's why we have the weather patterns, destructive weather patterns, floods, tsunamis, earthquakes, fire, famine, disease outbreaks, HIV, pandemics, that sort of thing. This is all population controlled because the population and mankind has gotten out of control, and with our destruction of the earth. So the earth begins to cleanse itself in that way. And that's why the disasters happen, because the earth is overpopulated. And as it becomes more overpopulated, the obvious, the elephant in the room, becomes apparent. That the crime wave goes up, the population goes up. With the population increase is the crime increase. Sickening, people getting sick, the need for hospitals. You'll see today hospitals are throwing out patients because there's no room. They're pushing their patients out into the streets. Okay, and the shelters are filling up. The jails are filling up. 3 and 4 to a cell. It wasn't like that 20, 30 years ago. Okay, because that's how the crime rate has gone up. People have to survive. People have to destroy each other somehow, and this is how it's happening. And so, with the population increase, we have mass homicides, mass shootings, mass murders, mass destruction. And the more that we populate our cities and our small communities, the more we will see a lot of that big city stuff coming into our smaller communities, which is what you're seeing now with drive-by shootings, that sort of thing, and people being abducted, people going missing, that sort of thing happening in more and more in smaller communities where it never happened before. 20, 30 years ago, and that's because of the population increase. And so with population increase, we have good people, we have bad people. Okay, we have all different kinds of people. We have black people, red people, yellow people, and white people, and we have people that are handicapped. We have people that are, people that are with special needs. That's what. So all these different kinds of people overpopulate the earth, and sometimes some of the only the stronger survive, and they begin to overrun some of the burden. And so that's why a lot of, I could be wrong about this, but there could be population control throughout deliberate pandemic, where people are injected deliberately with HIV or whatever kind of pandemic that would destroy a person quickly as possible, COVID-19, for example. And so the burdens of society would begin to do away with. They would do away with them in our prisons, in our hospitals, in our streets, as we get more and more populated and the crime rate goes up. We begin to destroy each other. And so once it becomes a mock, that's when the real destruction happens, and we don't know what happened to the dinosaurs. Okay, we don't know what happened to mankind, the different civilizations that we are uncovering today. We have different kinds of civilizations today that are being uncovered, that civilizations of evidence of civilizations of people in our countries that tell us that First Nation people were here first, before the scriptures or before the teachings of the Bible, before any of those stories were brought here. With the teachings of and the Orthodox of Sodom and Gomorrah came the residential schools to for America and for Canada. They needed to do away with the Indian and what was left. They destroyed as much as they could to make way for Jesus, to make way for scriptures. And they began to destroy the native people. And what was left, they would take away the language, and they began to sexually abuse us, they began to sexually abuse the children that were inside the residential schools, and began to destroy the children's peace of mind there with the teachings of the Bible. And those children in turn brought those teachings back to our communities, and that's how we began to become colonized, and we began to destroy ourselves, because that's what it was meant to be. We were meant to destroy ourselves. And European culture, the Bible culture, knew that when they brought that church here, that when we began to follow that church, we would begin to start following our own destructive destiny, which is what has happened to us as First Nation people, and many as people in general. We have begun to destroy ourselves with these sicknesses, alcoholism, drugs, man-made synthetics, and we've lost touch with reality. Many of us don't love ourselves anymore, so we don't know how to love. We only know how to hate, and that's what love has become, unfortunately. Based on the teaching of the scriptures and the Bible that were forced upon the people of the earth, we've created that destiny. We've created our own Sodom and Gomorrah. We created our own hell. And as long as we follow the Bible, as long as we follow the scriptures, And we, as long as we believe that Jesus is superior to us, we will continue to destroy ourselves and continue to destroy the earth. Have a good night.